Or Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. 32 degrees to start off your morning in downtown Baton Rouge. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing, getting you ready for a busy Wednesday show. We got Legally Served coming your way this morning. Attorney Richard Sprinkle going to be in for Franz Borghardt. We've got Matt Kennedy stopping by the show today. Congressman Garret Graves coming by. We've got Charlie Davis, the Mayor President's new Chief Administrative Officer. And Sergeant Rob Berrere from NOPD going to join us as well. However, that's all still to come. Right now, we start the show off with top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Some kids are going to be on the move to another school next year, as it was announced that Idea Public Schools in Baton Rouge are closing at the end of this year. In a letter sent to parents, the school system said they'll be closing the Idea Bridge and Idea Innovation Academies. In April, school leaders said a different Idea school, Idea University Prep, would be shutting its doors at the end of the school year as well. Plans to move students and teachers either to Bridge or the Innovation campuses.
Number 4.
The funeral for Reggie Hunter, a Baton Rouge father of 2, who was killed in a terror attack in New Orleans, will be coming up on Saturday, January 11th at Big Zion AME in Roseland. The viewing will be from 10 a.m. until 11. The funeral will start after, followed by the burial at Big Zion AME Cemetery.
Number 3.
St. George is working on what they're going to pay their leaders. Council members proposed paying the mayor $175,000, chief of police $150,000, council members $44,000 apiece. These salaries will be discussed at the next St. George Council meeting. That's on January 14th.
Number 2.
Mayor President Sid Edwards made a few more hires yesterday. Mason Batts, who was campaign manager, has been brought on as the office's executive director. Also, Christopher Toombs comes over from Helix Schools to be an executive assistant.
Number 1.
Arrest warrants have been issued for 3 teenagers in the December 14th shooting on the levee after a Baton Rouge Christmas parade. 2 of the teens had spent months in jail accused of the first murder of 2024, but were apparently released after a grand jury failed to indict them. Baton Rouge police got warrants in late December for Trayvon Collins and Eddie Monroe, both are 17 years old. I also got a warrant for Christopher King, who's only 15, though it is an adult warrant for him as well. By the way, we're going to be talking about this story in our Legally Served segment with attorney Richard Sprinkle coming up about 20 minutes from right now. Randomly shooting, not randomly, but firing a gun openly in the middle of a crowd at a parade. Can that be defined as terrorism? We'll talk about that about 20 minutes from right now.
Well, who's ready to invade Greenland?
Let's go.
Donald Trump floated the idea in a press conference yesterday.
Me and 6 other guys, we're going to go take over Greenland.
Other guys.
Yeah, we got a
rallying the troops here again.
Crack squadron. We're just going to take out Greenland right there. Oh man,
some things that come up, you just think satire immediately.
Yes,
and then you realize,
sometimes
this is factual.
Hey, look, because of the FCC, I can't use the word that I want to use.
Of course.
But like you hear that, you're like, he's bleeping with us, isn't he?
Right.
He's throwing out raw meat for someone to chase as a distraction. He is trolling the American public right here.
Yes.
Oh, you can't do that. You're the president. Well, he just did. And by the way, Greenland's gonna be on high alert.
Oh, yeah.
In Canada, you watch your ass.
Of course, both Denmark and Panama have rejected any suggestion that they would give up territory, but
No, they're not giving up territory.
No.
Sure. Wait,
they're not going to go quietly.
What are you going to do, Denmark? Like if he were serious, if this were a real thing, which I don't think it is, but if this were a real thing, like what are you going to do? Like,
unfortunately, not much.
Right.
In other news, evacuations are underway in the Los Angeles area as a ferocious windstorm fuels at least 3 wildfires that are swallowing up homes. Devastating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a scary sight in Los Angeles. We know about the wildfires every year. The windstorms accompanying them that are fueling them this time around. We're talking about, I was listening to one report on America in the Morning, the show, the Fox News Rundown that comes on in the 4 o'clock hour. And apparently a lot of this area hasn't had rain in a year.
Ooh.
Like since early last spring was the last time it had rain.
That's tough.
I can't imagine
No.
like going 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like, well, we had some droughts every once in a while, but not a year.
A year. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Completely devastating out there. Hey, we also learned over the weekend that Drago's lost its lease at its location just off College Drive. Now we know what's moving in. A Loft 18 interactive sports bar.
Yeah. So Loft 18, they got one down on Metairie Road, in Metairie, obviously. It's interactive. They're known for their virtual golf.
Okay.
There's other sports in there as well, but their virtual golf is kind of their bread and butter.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have thought that location was big enough.
Well, that's immediately what I think as well.
But I mean, I don't. It might be a smaller version than what. Although they squeeze their location in Metairie, they squeeze a lot into a small space, to be sure.
Yeah.
But man, now we just got to find Drago's a new home, and then it's all systems go, right?
Right. No, absolutely. Man, yeah. Looking forward to that though. I mean,
What, the virtual golf?
yeah,
The other sports? Yeah.
Seems cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool concept, and it's all locally owned. So that's also
Even
cool.
better.
Yep. It is 6:11 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. I know it's a little bit early to start thinking about lunch, but you know what I'm throwing out there for you. P.F. Chang's. If you do not have your lunch plans, and at 6:11 in the morning, who already has their lunch plans, right? Well, I know. If you made plans with somebody else, I get that. But hey, let me suggest P.F. Chang's, and let me suggest the Golden Feast. If you don't know what the Golden Feast is, it's basically it's Korean fried chicken, or you get the chicken poppers with the sauce flight. The sauce flight is amazing. Everything from a little bit on the sweet end to the hot honey, all the way up to the chili sauce as well, which is fire, literally and figuratively. No, it's not literally, but figuratively fire. There's 4 different sauces you get with it. Each of them are fantastic in their own right. The Golden Feast, chicken and bubbles is another possibility over here. And when I say bubbles, you might be thinking like bubbly, like a bottle of champagne. Let your mind stay there and be surprised when you get there and find out what chicken and bubbles is all about. They are in Town Center, off of Corporate Boulevard. Corporate Boulevard, Town Center. Look for the giant golden horse. It's P.F. Chang's. Oh. Yeah. I cannot for the life of me like shake the cough and all that other good stuff. Do I have time to run and let Richard in?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Coming up on 616 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hey, John, question for you. Did I send you LSU men's basketball highlights?
Let me double check before I confirm. LSU highlights you did.
Okay, throw them away.
Okay.
Because that was awful last night. Oh, my goodness gracious. It was, LSU was on the road at Missouri. And even with it being 14 degrees in Columbia, Missouri last night, and school's not even in right now, they still had a crowd. Yeah. They're not equipped to clean the streets of 6 to 8 inches of snow, and yet somehow they did. And, the Missouri Tigers put on for a home audience last night. LSU got off to a slow start. Well, I shouldn't say that. LSU got up 2-0 and then got off to a slow start. They trailed 42-27 at halftime. The second half was a lot closer, 41-40. Missouri wins the second half as well. 83-67, your final score last night. It was just LSU was like a half step slower on both ends of the court and in the transition getting up and down the court, even though they did have more fast break points than Missouri did. For the Tigers, Cam Carter led them in scoring. He had 16 on the night. You actually had 4 Tigers at double figures. Curtis Gibbons, the third, had 15, and then both Damian Collins and Jai Bailey had 11. Gibbons actually looked good from behind the three-point line, and Carter looks like he can compete with everybody, but they were just missing something last night, whether it be just being a step slower, not pulling down enough boards on the defensive end, allowing for too many offensive rebounds, sending to the free throw line, whatever the case might be. LSU now falls to 0-2 in conference play. They'll be at Ole Miss on Saturday and then bringing it back home after that. Meanwhile, throughout the rest of the Southeastern Conference last night, it was not your normal night of basketball. You had 2 top 10 teams get knocked down and one of them getting knocked down hard. Georgia, unranked Georgia, was playing Kentucky last night. Kentucky's number 6 in the nation. Georgia beats them. Unranked Georgia gets an 82-69 win over number 6 Kentucky. Then you also had a top 10 matchup in the SEC last night. Number 8 Florida was hosting number 1 in the nation Tennessee. How about 73-43? Florida just puts Tennessee in the dirt last night. So, man, SEC play is, it is off and running, but not your normal, not your norm, not what we'd be used to. The one game we were used to would have been number 2 Auburn beating Texas 87-82, but though that's closer than it should have been. Meanwhile, down in New Orleans, we had Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints and from LouisianaSports.net on yesterday talking about the Saints coaching search. And it took a minute for us to get to him, but Joe Brady's name is coming up. He was, of course, the passing game coordinator with LSU back in the 2019 National Championship season when everything was perfect and all was right with the world. Ross says, didn't go well for Brady as the offensive coordinator for the Panthers a couple years ago, but man, look what he's doing with the Bills.
I think you're interested in Joe Brady if you're the New Orleans Saints because of what Joe Brady has done and the growth potential that he's shown. I mean, the difference between him in Carolina and him in Buffalo is night and day.
It helps to have Josh Allen. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. So there's also the matter of who's got the jobs open right now. 6 vacancies after Las Vegas fired their head coach. Jackson says the coaching candidate might look at the Saints situation as one where they'd be, because of it's not the most alluring job right now, they'll be given a little more leeway, a little more time to turn things around.
So you're going to end up coming in a situation where you're probably not going to have to pick your quarterback to start. You're probably not going to have the salary cap money to go out there and do too terrible much. And so really you take a job in 2025, but your evaluation begins in 2026 as long as you don't royally screw it up during your first year.
It is 6:20. Here's the Fox Business Report. What? No. Nice. I got home from that LSU game close to midnight last night. It's always nice to get started on show prep at that time. No, I can't complain though, because the team and the broadcast crew, they flew home last night. 8 p.m. tip-off. Game was over at 10:20, which means post-game was over about 10:50. So you're packing up equipment at 11 o'clock, getting out of there by about 11:15, and then going to go hop a plane to come back home from Columbia, Missouri in the middle of the night? Good Lord. I know. Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're going to start off on your interstate systems as we do during this time every morning, and things are looking pretty good. You will find a little bit of volume on 12 westbound by Denham Springs, but that's about it on your interstates to start off the morning. 10 westbound coming in from Ascension's looking good. 10 eastbound coming in from West Baton Rouge is looking good. I-110 is looking good as well. Hopping off one of your surface streets, there's one crash that's being reported by the sheriff's office, but I got to plead ignorance here. Because I honestly didn't think these two streets intersected. It says Burbank at South Kenilworth Parkway. It's what it says on the board. Burbank at South Kenilworth Parkway. But Kenilworth runs from Perkins to Highland and ends there. Yeah. So I don't believe those two actually intersect. Anyway, I report on it because it's what's there in front of me on the board. So Allow me to Ron Burgundy for just a second, but Burbank and South Kenilworth, apparently. That's really good traffic from the Shawbills Tire Traffic Center. .625, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Coming up next hour, Matt Kennedy with Presley Wealth Management going to join us as we are less than 2 weeks away from a new administration in Washington, D.C. What does that mean for long-term planning? What does that mean for your retirement? What does that mean for your investments? We're going to talk with Matt Kennedy at 7:15. Right now, though, as we do every Wednesday, it's time for Legally Served. Do what? Oh. Oh, is it? It's not even on the map. It's time for Legally Served. Franz is out right now. Not to worry. We got Richard Sprinkle in the house. How are you?
Great, Brian. How you doing this morning?
Doing very well as well. Let's appreciate you braving the cold to get down here. That's I know it's like right about as you make that walk up towards the door when you get that. It's like a little wind tunnel.
Little wind
right
tunnel there.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
A little Chicago-esque.
It kind of is.
Yeah,
kind of is. We were texting back and forth about what we were talking about today, and I can't get away from this story because I feel like there's more to it, or at least there could be. The headline over at WBRZ.com, 3 teens sought in shooting after Christmas parade, 2 previously accused in murder.
Right.
Okay. This is about the downtown Christmas parade from last December. As the story reads, arrest warrants have been issued for 3 teenagers in the December 14th shooting on the levee after a Baton Rouge Christmas parade. 2 of the teens had spent months in jail, accused of the first murder of 2024, but were apparently released after a grand jury failed to indict them. We're going to get to that in a little bit as well, but I want to make sure everything's on the table and thrown out there first. Baton Rouge police got warrants in late December for Trayvon Collins and Eddie Monroe, both 17, and for 15-year-old Christopher King in the parade shooting. Now, it's not clear why an adult warrant was issued for 15-year-old King. Police have not responded to questions about the case. The shooting near the USS Kidd Museum after the Christmas parade injured 1 woman and caused parade participants and viewers to scatter. Police found several shell casings of various calibers at the scene. Yes, 1 person was hurt in the shooting. That's a downgrade, though. There was more than 1 person hurt. There was 1 person taken to the hospital with their injuries. There was another person who was patched up on the scene with a graze, and then there was another person who got run over by a golf cart as the scattering happened, right?
In the madness.
Right. I want to throw this out there. In light of what happened in New Orleans on New Year's morning, that was a terror attack.
That was a terror attack.
Okay. If you start firing a pistol all around a crowded parade and you see the scattering like we saw, you see that reaction, which is the natural reaction. Terror is the natural reaction to someone firing a gun all over the place to where several shell casings are on the ground.
Right.
What does it take to charge someone with terrorism?
Well, what it takes is the specific act here, shooting into the crowd, attempted murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, all that fun stuff. It takes that in conjunction with the intent to either intimidate or coerce the public, intimidate or coerce a unit of government into taking some action, or basically trying to force government action, the way the terror statutes are written. We've got these at the federal level and the state levels and everything else. So if the prosecution wanted to make the argument that this group wanted to intimidate the public and keep people away from parades, for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
okay, then that's an argument for terrorism. You could basically pile the terrorism charge on top of the existing charges.
I don't know if you could prove that they wanted to keep people away from parades, but they did want to intimidate.
They did want to intimidate.
You're not taking out a gun unless that's your intent, correct?
Sure, right.
I mean, and you're certainly not firing it in a crowd unless that's your intent.
But you're definitely intending to harm somebody and by extension, intimidate everybody else
but
around.
You're not Robert
Sure.
De Niro in Godfather 2 tracking somebody from rooftop to rooftop
No.
to where it's private.
Right.
This is very much public.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring that movie up because that's at a parade.
Right.
And you see the difference between firing randomly and openly at a parade versus, unscrewing the light bulb and hitting them up in the stairwell.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're going. All right. That sets the table. We're going to talk about how we get there when we come back. We're coming up on 6:30 at Talk 107.3 FM. Time for ABC News.
You see how that argument's going to extend a lot more easily to Mario Luigi? Or
Yes.
Luigi, whatever his name is. I can't remember.
Troy says South Kenilworth is a street that runs along the daiquiri shop on Burbank. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay. They should have just said next to Lakeside Daiquiris.
Yeah, but I still am not sure.
Now, when I came up Nicholson, one lane was blocked by a wrecker, but I'm sure that's cleared by now. You heard about the fires out in California? Like, again? New fires?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Sure enough. Good morning, Christy. Welcome in, Boo.
So where's Franz off to this time?
Fatable?
Oh, that's right. That's right. I did see something about
He's out next week, too.
Yeah. I knew he was going out of town, but I didn't know where. That guy travels a lot.
Yeah.
Good for him. Travel's important.
Yeah.
Maybe we should travel to Greenland.
You won't even need a passport for much longer.
Funny thing, my father was stationed at Greenland. I was born about 9 months after he came home.
Okay. There's nothing in Greenland.
An air base. There was
Yeah.
an air base. Always remember, Greenland's covered in ice. Iceland is covered in green.
Right.
That's the way you remember that.
And it was named as such to attract people there. But it... is...
I mean, aside from a place to just get off your Viking ship and, stretch your legs, what was the purpose of settling anybody there?
No, there is no purpose. It's the North Pole.
I know.
It's,
I know.
And it is so stupid because it's technically, like, politically, like, part of Europe.
Yeah.
But it's connected to us. It's connected to North America.
Right.
So, makes no damn sense.
Mm-mm. No. It's hard to believe it's connected to the North American continent.
Yeah.
It's just wild. Like now I'm trying to flatten out a globe to picture it in my head. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, the Mercator projection has never really done us actual justice.
Mm-mm.
Another cold start to the morning, but we might warm up just a little bit. Here with your full forecast is WBRZ meteorologist Tim McCade Cowan. Greenland's GDP is roughly 1/3 the value of the Dallas Cowboys.
So Jerry Jones could just buy the place.
Yes.
Did you see him make an appearance on Landman? Are you watching?
I don't
Landman?
have Paramount.
That show is for sure a guilty pleasure.
Well, I want Paramount Plus because I want to watch Tulsa King.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen clips of that. It's amazing.
Very good show. The writing got very lazy in the last few episodes.
638 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We got attorney Richard Sprinkle in for Franz Borghardt. This is our Legally Served segment. Asking the question about charging someone with terrorism. Like, how viable is it? Now, I'm bringing up the case of the downtown Christmas parade, where one person was hurt and one person was reported within the story is hurt, but we know that it was a few more than that. But it's bigger than who the bullets hit.
Sure.
It's what the bullets did. It's what the reverb coming off of the the echoing coming off of the river center and the levee, the sound, the fear that which strikes you in your core, and you just take off running.
Right.
Up Government, up Convention, up North Boulevard. I mean, we're talking about an entire mass of people that just scattered. You're talking about like the people that were on the floats, all basically ducking down to ride back to where they began, to make it look like there's nobody even on the floats in case there's still danger afoot. It was a scene that was beyond surreal. When you create that kind of environment, you have created terror. So let's talk about the how would you go about it as an attorney? How would you go about trying to, I don't want to say tack that on, but make that stick?
Well, you'd have to make the argument. Like I said, you'd have to make the argument that in conjunction with the act that they did, there was an intent to intimidate or coerce, right? So if I were the prosecutor, and I'm not a prosecutor, but if I were the prosecutor, I would have to formulate that argument that not only were they in the perpetration of this attempted murder, but they were also attempting to somehow intimidate the public or convince people that this was their territory, that they didn't want people out in the streets for parades. It's not an easy argument to make, but
Right.
you can make it,
Yeah.
right? And again, remember, this is an add-on charge,
Right.
on top of the attempted murder and everything else.
Right.
So it's not necessary to get the and one on this if you're the prosecutor.
No, it's not necessary, but we're talking about two people who were already in jail as recently as last year.
Right.
So
who weren't indicted.
Yeah, I'm looking for what I'm looking for here is a stronger hand of punishment, and if that comes from a secondary avenue, then so be it.
Well, they still have to be indicted again.
Yeah.
Right. Grand jury indictment again.
Yeah.
And the old saying is out there. A good lawyer can indict a ham sandwich in front of a grand jury.
And I understand.
So apparently there was no ham sandwich last time.
No.
For whatever reason. So they could bill it or bring it in front of the grand jury, not bill it, but present the charge to the grand jury to see if the grand jury will return a true bill on it or not. And maybe they use that in some way to influence the grand jury. I don't know. I really don't.
Now, while this one would be kind of tough to do because you're talking about teenagers. There was no
right
when they left the house that night. I think it would be pretty hard to prove that they left.
We're
going to
shut down parades.
Right. I don't.
I don't think.
I think that would be difficult to prove.
Right.
We're going to inflict terror into the masses. I don't think you could prove that, or it would be difficult to do so.
You could infer because it's a general intent crime.
Right.
A general criminal intent. So you basically get to the terrorism by virtue of the fact that the other things were done.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, but here's where I'm going with this, though. It would be tougher to prove that they intended to inflict fear upon the masses or terror upon the masses when they left the house in this scenario than it would be in, let's say, the case of the United Healthcare CEO's assassination.
Oh, sure.
That dude left his house knowing he was going to shoot.
He left an instruction book of everything he was going to do.
Right.
So, that's a whole other ball of wax. Clearly, that is somebody who was dead set on changing the system, but part of the other thing of terror is trying to influence government action, et cetera.
Right.
He clearly wanted to change something about the healthcare industry, but as evidenced by his manifesto and everything else.
Yes.
This wasn't a random killing. This wasn't a robbery for money or anything like that. He didn't even take the guy's wallet or anything. He just shot and left, allegedly.
Well, yes,
he's the
and
guy who
nobody
did it.
else got hurt. The only person who got hurt was the person who was the intended target.
Right.
Whereas when you look at the Baton Rouge Downtown Christmas Parade, there but for the grace of God. I mean, how bad could that have been?
That could have been horrible.
When you look at New Orleans on New Year's morning, what if he was able to detonate his bombs? Things that could have been so much worse, and yet this dude, Luigi, had the intent to make things. He set things down a different course.
Right.
Not just randomly.
No.
Not just cause panic and terror, but to change the course of where we're headed.
Mm-hmm.
So I would argue that tacking this onto him would be an easy one.
Now, if we look at just the facts of the situation with Luigi, it could be argued that it was just dumb luck. Nobody else was out on the sidewalk right then and there.
True.
And would he have done the same act if there was 20 people surrounding the guy? I don't know.
There was an eyewitness.
There was one eyewitness,
who walked away unscathed.
But it's a Manhattan street. You could have walked out of that door into 20 people easily.
Yes, I mean, you wait till the sun comes up; it's going to be a lot more.
Sure.
Right.
But I mean, that could have been a variety of different ways. But based on the fact that he wrote the manifesto, based on the fact that he took the actions he did, making the terror argument there much easier than it would be applying it to the teenagers here in Baton Rouge.
Punishment end, adding terror onto it. What does that do on the back end?
It adds a significant punishment. Honestly, I'd have to look at the punishment because it varies state to state.
Right.
But it's going to add, a stiffer penalty. But if you're in our state, if you get convicted of murder, well, that's life without opportunity of parole anyway. So an attempted murder, if they tack terror on top of an attempted murder, it's going to be a lengthier sentence.
What does it take to move it from state to federal on something like that?
Not a great deal, because you've violated a federal crime,
Right.
So the only way federal courts extend jurisdiction over state is through federal question, which means it's federal crime, or it's an argument between people from various states, or it's something that the courts have original jurisdiction over. So in a case where there's a federal crime enumerated on it, the feds can pick it up, which means you could have a federal terrorism charge and a state terrorism charge. You could face both.
How does that change the approach? Like okay, and I know you're not a prosecutor, but if you were, would that be something you would want?
If I'm the state prosecutor and the feds have, quote, picked it up, then I'm more likely going to sit back and watch and let the feds play it out, and I'm going to use their playbook in my trial if they are successful. If they don't pick it up, I'm going to pick up the ball and run downhill like Clyde Edwards-Helaire as fast and hard as I can go.
He is attorney Richard Sprinkle. We do legally serve this time every single week. We're going to pick up after our break with more. Before we take that break, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Parish Construction and Roofing. ParishBuilt.com is the website. ParishBuilt.com. 364-1007 is the phone number. You are listening right now to one unbelievably happy customer. They say do business with someone you know at Parish Construction and Roofing, and that is so much more than a tagline. I've just completed the process of getting myself a new roof, and it has been darn near pleasurable. It has been a breeze, and that's because when you do business with someone you know, you do business with someone who will hold your hand throughout the entire process. Getting the insurance adjuster out there, making sure that, well, first of all, making sure that you do have enough damage to be worthy of a new roof, then getting the insurance adjuster out there, picking your shingles all the way through installation, all the way till everything's cleaned up and they are out of your driveway, and the back end with the insurance company as well. Parish Construction and Roofing made that as simple as is humanly possible. And it starts with doing business with someone you know. 364-1007 or parishbuilt.com.
First hour's almost up, man. It's got to be rough. What are we hearing about the weather on Friday? It looks nasty.
It does. It just looks gross.
I got to drive to Lake Charles.
And it's not going to be like thunderstorm rain. It's just going to be like rain.
Oh, good.
Like lazy rain.
Thunderstorm's
like
harder to drive in, but
yeah, but over.
Yeah, true. But what blows about going to Lake Charles, the parking lot for the courthouse is like across the street. You're gonna get drenched. Just getting into the building, no matter what. Yeah, tacking on the terror charge, it's definitely going to garner a certain media response. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of good reasons to do it, but
torches and pitchforks.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean,
we could use a few good torches and pitchforks these days.
Sometimes, it's not the worst thing to bring out the torches and pitchforks, but the problem with it is, does it taint the jury? And can a defense lawyer use that as well? Now we're not going to be able to find an unbiased jury in this area, or we're going to have to move the trial, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see. What is it? We don't even talk about the penalty. Trying to look up. You're asking about the penalties on it. I want to see what that is. friend of mine says anybody under the age of 19 should be considered a terrorist, if you ask me. People ask what kind of cats I have. I say domestic terrorists because you can see by my hands.
My buddy has his dog. He calls him a Jack Russell terrorist.
Yeah. All right, let's see now. What is the penalty phase? Here we go. There you go. There you go. If you take attempted murder and convert it into terrorism, you get life without parole in Louisiana.
Say again?
If you take attempted murder and tack on terrorism and get the terrorism charge, that's a life without parole. That's just like a full-blown murder.
Okay.
So that could be a reason to do it here if that's what you wanted as the prosecutor. There it is. That's the reason. That is the reason.
We're going to move on to the squatter case for the last couple of minutes.
Cool. It's not, I mean,
I'm going to touch on the penalty end of it just because you looked it up and we have an answer. But
yeah, it's not, the squatter case isn't as sexy, but I mean, you can't squeeze blood from a stone. You're going to have to go after your insurance policy on that.
Right. 652 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. 2 weeks from today, we will be wheels up. Talk 107.3 is heading back to our nation's capital to celebrate Washington Mardi Gras. Join me and Gordy Rush Thursday, January 23rd, and Friday the 24th. 2 weeks today will be the travel day, as we broadcast live from the Washington Hilton for Mornings with Brian Haldane, as well as a special afternoon drive show from 4 to 6 p.m. each day. Our coverage is presented by Presley Wealth Management, Rev, and the National Wildlife Federation. Speaking of Presley Wealth Management, we'll talk with Matt Kennedy in our next hour. Right now, though, Richard Sprinkle is in with us for Legally Served for a couple more minutes. Richard, during the break, before the break, I was asking you about penalties.
Right.
How things escalate.
Sure.
When you add a terrorism charge or can get a conviction for a terrorism charge. What's the difference here, penalty-wise?
Well, I'll admit it's early, and I'm on one cup of coffee, so I had to look it up.
Okay.
But here's the interesting difference. If you've got an individual who ran into a crowd and started firing like crazy and didn't kill anyone, your best bet as a prosecutor there is an attempted murder conviction, right?
Yeah.
So if you add on to it terrorism and you get a conviction on the terrorism charge, well, now you've moved up into the bonus round and you have somebody who could get sentenced to life without the opportunity of parole. That's under Louisiana law. So you've gone from a penalty that goes from 10 to 50 years or 20 to 50 years if it's attempted murder on a peace officer. Then you are now in the life category where you don't get, quote unquote, a number. You're just in forever.
I can tell you it makes it tempting. From the standpoint of somebody who's sick of the violence,
Mm-hmm.
you go away now.
Sure.
You bleep around, you find out. You go away now, and you don't come back out again. And if the counter argument is you're going to end somebody's life by putting them in jail for the rest of their life, the answer is then let's rewind to the part where you bleeped around. Let's rewind to that part and don't do it.
Right.
I know it's simple-minded to think this way. I get it, but when you look at where the three incidents that we talked about specifically,
Mm-hmm.
okay, New Year's morning on Bourbon Street.
Right.
Luigi Mangione.
Right.
Downtown Christmas Parade.
Right.
All three of those could have been so much worse.
Oh, they could.
And all three of those could have. You see lost life, and you see the way of the loss of life affects families. And just when you know that, hell, my family was out there on Christmas for the Christmas parade.
Sure.
We were just maybe 50 yards away. Maybe.
My wife and I were considering coming down for it. We used to live downtown.
Yeah.
So going to the parades was, at that time, we just left our building and boom, it was right there passing by the building. But we thought about coming by it, and I'm really glad I didn't after hearing about what happened. But now the difference in the Mangione thing, now that is much more like Godfather 2, where we had one person going after one specific target.
Yeah.
It was an absolute hit.
Yeah.
But again, there was clearly the intent there to influence government action or something similar. So that's an easier extension for the terrorism charge.
And the reason for the difference is while what was on the levy was, they had that level of randomness to it.
Mm-hmm.
The intent with the United Healthcare CEO's assassination is the intent to strike fear in the hearts of every CEO.
Right.
Anybody who's got money in the bank, I mean, like real money in the bank, to eat the rich and put the 1% on alert.
Right.
I mean, and I know that's like broadening things way out, but that was the mindset behind it. Hey, while I got you here, we got about 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
This is one that I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, but man, this has got to grind your gears.
Oh, yes.
A
I know what
homeowner
you're
is
talking
still
about.
trying to rebuild after his house caught fire last week, prolonging the process of moving his elderly father into that home. Alfonso Potter is salvaging what was left behind after a squatter entered his home, started a fire, presumably to keep warm. Potter said he's hurt by what's happened. The story's over at WBRZ's website, and the house is, it is in complete disrepair, if not a total loss. It's going to take a long time to get things back going again. This is not the first we've heard of squatters recently in Baton Rouge.
No, it's not. It's
And I
definitely
feel
not.
like this is, and well, I mean, it's anecdotal, but it's certainly appearing to be a growing problem. And it's a problem where there's little to no recourse.
Well, the only recourse, truly, as far as the homeowner trying to get made whole again, and I'm using that phrase because the next word I'm going to use is insurance.
Yeah.
Right? Like let's hope he's A, got insurance, and B, has adequate coverage for this situation. You got to check your policy. You got to make sure an instance with a squatter entering your home and causing damage or potentially destroying the house, you got to make sure that something like that's covered. I don't know. I have not. I'll be honest. I haven't reviewed my own homeowner's insurance policy to see if squatter coverage is in there.
Well,
but
because
now I'm gonna.
You reside in your home,
Right.
So we recently saw a story. It was in Broadmoor. Was it Broadmoor? Yeah, it's just across Sharp. So it was in Broadmoor, right on Goodwood.
Yep.
Of a squatter who just could not be removed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was the one where they just absolutely wrecked the place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then got him out, and then he got right back in and
Yeah.
wrecks it again.
Yeah.
And there's no recourse there.
No, and the funny thing is, typically when the squatter is in there, even if they're doing damage and whatnot, in those cases it's typically only a civil matter.
Right.
So I don't know if anybody here has had to deal with the police on a civil matter, but they don't touch them. They will tell you that's a civil matter. You've got to hire an attorney and try to sue this individual. And good luck. I mean, I don't know what you're going to sue a squatter for.
Right.
But now in the most recent case where we have a fire set and there's damage, now we've got a potential criminal charge of simple arson.
Right.
So you and I were talking offline, and you're saying, well, there should be something we can do against this squatter. There should be some sort of penalty for this, and unfortunately, it's criminal.
You look at everything in life as risk versus reward.
Right.
And if you are thinking about squatting on a property, there's at this time nothing but reward.
Nothing but
because
reward,
simply
right.
there's nothing you could take from them because they don't have anything to take.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the risk? And that's the part of the equation.
The only risk is that you get caught in the house by the homeowner, and the homeowner
beat you with a baseball bat
or worse. Right. Right.
And that's the scenario we'd like to avoid by having them not
Right.
squat in the first
We
place.
don't want that.
You don't want to have vigilante violence
No.
inflicted upon anybody, but they got to know going in.
Yeah.
Here's Richard Sprinkle. Joins us when Franz is out of town. So you're going to be back next week.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Looking
Love
forward
to
to
hear
it. Looking
Same
forward to
here.
it.
Same here. I appreciate the time.
Thanks.
Here comes news. All right, I got to run upstairs to see if I've, for some reason, got Benadryl in my office. I don't think I do, but
Uh-oh.
I'm told that down the hall they're hurting. So.
Well, I appreciate you having me again.
Of course, always. No, it's. I love the balance. Like, you do a lot more prep than Franz does.
Well, that's bad because I feel like I prepped for like 5 minutes last night. Or you can.
Well, no, Franz just makes over the top arguments. Like, I have no idea if they're based in fact or law or anything.
I will say this: if you read Louisiana federal and New York terrorism laws, they're damn near identical.
Okay.
The New York's the smartest one. It makes it more succinct than everybody else, but that's it. Yeah, but I mean it's more succinct than the feds. So, appreciate it, guys. See you, John.
All right, have a good one.
7:05, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing. We are starting hour 2. Oh, we dipped down by 1 degree. It's now 31 in downtown Baton Rouge, on our way up to 49 before it's all said and done. We've got a busy second hour for you. Well, first of all, thanks again to Richard Sprinkle, Attorney Richard Sprinkle, hopping in for legally served in our last hour. Got a busy second hour for you. Matt Kennedy with Presley Wealth Management going to join us in our next segment. I've always disclosed when we have a pre-recorded segment. I got to talk with Matt this morning. I said, hey, we're less than 2 weeks away from Inauguration Day. What does the changing of the guard in Washington, D.C. mean for your retirement, for your long-term planning, for your investments? And Matt said, I would love to come on, but I'm on a plane while you're on the air. So if you don't mind, while I'm just sitting around in the airport, let's go ahead and record it. So Matt Kennedy coming up in our next segment. Also this hour, Congressman Garret Graves, little D.C. Current, presented by LABI. That's all still to come. Right now, though, top stories and trending. Let's roll.
Number 5.
Do not expect to get the mail tomorrow. Post offices will be closed. No mail will be delivered on Thursday due to the National Day of Observance to honor former President Jimmy Carter. The U.S. Postal Service announced on their website they will suspend regular mail deliveries, retail services, and administrative office activities on Thursday, January 9th.
Number 4.
The funeral for Reggie Hunter, a Baton Rouge father of 2 who was killed in a terror attack in New Orleans, will be on Saturday, January 11th at Big Zion AME in Roseland. The viewing will be from 10 to 11 a.m. Funeral starts after that, followed by the burial at the Big Zion Cemetery.
Number 3.
St. George is working on what they're going to pay their leaders. Council members propose paying the mayor $175,000, chief of police $150,000, and council members $44,000. These salaries are going to be discussed at the next St. George council meeting on January 14th.
Number 2.
Mayor President Sid Edwards makes a few more hires. Mason Batts, who was Edwards' campaign manager, has been brought on as the office's executive director. Also, Christopher Toombs comes over from Helix Schools to be an executive assistant.
Number 1.
Arrest warrants have been issued for 3 teenagers in the December 14th shooting on the levee after the Baton Rouge Christmas parade. 2 of the teens had spent months in jail accused of the first murder of 2024. They were apparently released after a grand jury failed to indict them. Baton Rouge police got warrants in late December for Trayvon Collins and Eddie Monroe. They're both 17. They also got an adult warrant for 15-year-old Christopher King. What's trending, John?
Well, rally the troops. Who's ready to invade Greenland?
Let's go.
Donald Trump floated the idea in a press conference yesterday.
You know what? Greenland's had it too easy for too long. Just sitting there, covered nice, doing nothing. Associating themselves politically with Europe while being attached to North America. Where's your allegiance, Greenland? Yeah. You're North America, dang it.
Oh, to be honest, the first time I read this, I thought it was satire. To be honest.
Same.
I was like, I
watched the press conference.
Yeah.
And to see Donald Trump talking about Greenland and Panama, and Canada, for that matter.
Yes.
Like, we're going to lean on Canada economically and tariff them out of business. And
use economic force.
It's so unheard of in 2025 to think of expansionism of a country, right?
Right. I mean,
it's not going to happen. Settle yourselves down. It's not going to happen.
Oh, no.
But at the same time, though, let's walk the path. What would happen?
Yeah.
What would happen if Canada and America were to merge? What would happen? Like, it
might not be the worst thing, right?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I don't know. But one big old America.
It's good to entertain the thought, though.
U.S., Canada, Greenland. Let's go.
Let's do it.
I'm here for it. By the way, it's all north of the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
And just as a little teaser, Matt and I have some fun with that one.
Oh. Hey, evacuations are underway in the Los Angeles area as a ferocious windstorm fuels at least 3 wildfires that are swallowing up homes.
Wind gusts over 100 miles per hour.
Yes.
I was hearing about this throughout the morning, this morning on both the
Spreading rapidly.
Fox News Rundown and America in the Morning. It is. We see the wildfires every year, right? But the amount of fuel within the fire,
To this extent.
right? The amount of fuel because of the windstorms, it just makes them unstoppable.
And you mentioned last hour the drought, right?
Yeah.
About a year.
Yeah, a lot of the area that's being engulfed with this right now hasn't seen rain for since last spring. So
That's tough.
it's just absolutely brutal. Absolutely.
In other news, we learned over the weekend that Drago's lost its lease and its location just off College Drive. Now we know it's moving in, a Loft 18 interactive sports bar.
So for those unfamiliar with Loft 18, they got one down in Metairie. It's actually on Metairie Road. And they got some in other places as well. I want to say the North Shore has one too.
Yeah, I believe so.
But virtual golf. That's your main go here. That's your main reason for going is virtual golf. They have a number of other interactive sports things to do there, but
Yeah, I saw some of the other simulations such as basketball, home run derby, carnival games, and probably, I'm just going to call it probably my favorite, zombie dodgeball.
Zombie dodgeball.
Zombie dodgeball.
All right. And the menu's legit too.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I need Dragos to find a new home first. I'm a big Dragos fan.
Yeah.
All right. I need Dragos to find a new home first, but I'm a little bit fired up because this is my ideal date night type of place. You know?
Oh,
There's
yeah,
a handful of restaurants in town. Like P.F. Chang's is a great example.
Absolutely.
But like there's a handful of places in town where like you just it's one-stop shopping. And you grab a couple drinks, grab a couple bites, maybe swing the sticks a little bit, maybe do a little and the interactive basketball. It's not like Pop-A-Shot,
Right.
but it's so much better than that. But yeah, Loft 18. I'm familiar with the Metairie location. They're about to be off of College on Constitution, where Dragos was in the old Blockbuster Music.
Oh, man. You've got ties, right? I mean,
Well, I was
Ties
I
to
was I was video. I was Blockbuster video.
video. Okay.
Yeah. I was Blockbuster Video. I worked at the Sherwood Old Hammond location.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I also worked at the Perkins and Essen location. Sherwood and Old Hammond is an ideal market now. It's now a Mexican grocery store. Perkins and Essen, is behind that Albertsons. I want to say it's a mini storage now. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
See, I throw out something like that, and I know I'm going to get 1,000 responses, like I did last hour, where I didn't know where where I didn't know where Burbank and Kenilworth was. By the way, shout out to everybody who hit me up with responses to that. That was a deluge of "It's by Lakeside Daiquiri."
Yeah.
Okay. So Richard Sprinkle he just left. He's in his car on his way out of here. He says Dragos was an FYE before it was Dragos. Yes, Richard, but before it was FYE, which stands for Your Entertainment, before it was FYE, it was Blockbuster Music. And it was something else before that, like a Tower Records or something.
See, Blockbuster Music, and I'm not familiar with, of course, the movie side, but Blockbuster Music.
Blockbuster Music. Yep.
In Houma, we only had one, and that was the video side.
Yeah, the video, and they had the side section with CDs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Daughter asked what a CD was. I was like, imagine if your phone could only hold 15 songs.
Hey, that's a good point, right?
It's 7:14 at Talk 107.3 FM. Quick break. Matt Kennedy's next. I hit a nerve with the squatters. And I knew I would.
You in DC at the Mardi Gras. We haven't done that. We sponsor it, but we haven't come to see you. So we'll do that next year. We're busy.
No, absolutely. And believe me, I don't think anybody wants to be there this year because it's going to be 2 days after inauguration, right? And,
true. Good point.
Yeah. So, and speaking of inauguration, that's kind of what we're talking about today. Changing of the guard, Washington, D.C. What does it mean for long-term planning? What does it mean for retirements?
Well, so let's talk about what has happened recently under the Biden administration, if we can.
Yeah.
Because, Brian, that sets the stage, in my opinion, for some radical change. Some of you may be aware of this, some of you may not. But Congressman Garret Graves, to give credit where credit's due, he fought ferociously to get a bill passed, the Social Security Fairness Act. And I'm telling you, this is one of the biggest changes in retirement and in American law in the last 40 years. So let me try to make the complex simple. Here's a quick story, okay? Mm-hmm. So you got some people that live down the bayou. Pierre and his wife, Tina, but she doesn't go by Tina. She goes by Pin, right?
Okay.
Right. Trying to make the story memorable, Brian. Come on.
I can't wait to see where it's going.
Okay. So he spent years working at the chemical plant, and he retires, and his Social Security is $3,000 a month, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Pin was a school teacher, and she taught in Labadyville, and she was a school teacher. So she didn't pay into Social Security.
Right.
However, she has a pension. So her pension is $2,000 a month. Under the old law, when they retired, she could not draw up to 1/2 of her husband's Social Security. Remember, she didn't pay in. But women who don't work in the public sector, they're not school teachers, they're not state workers, or men too. But in my example, it's Pin. It's the woman, right?
Right.
So she could not draw Social Security on her own record because she didn't pay in, and she could not draw up to 1/2 of her husband's. And that was because of something called the government pension offset. And the math always was, well, Pin had to take 2/3 of her salary, so 2/3 of 2,000. Hang on, let me get my calculator out. It's early. So hold on. Come on, Brian. What's 2/3 of 2,000?
2/3 of 2,000 would be about $1,300.
Okay, well, I'm glad you can do that on the fly. You're right. It's $1,320. Holy cow, we should change jobs. Anyway, so she could draw 1/2 of her husband's if she had not worked as a school teacher, but she did. Mm-hmm. So instead of being able to get $1,500 from her husband's Social Security, she has to subtract the $1,320 from the $1,500 she would get. So she ends up getting next to nothing from Social Security. But it gets even worse. If her husband passes away, in a normal situation, she would get all of her husband's Social Security, all $3,000. Right. And that keeps her secure in retirement, right? She gets $3,000 from her husband. She still has her $2,000 pension. But under the old system, 2/3 of her pension was deducted from all of the Social Security she would receive from him. So it cut his benefit to her when he passed by about 1/2. This has always been an incredibly unfair system, in my opinion. Now, under the new legislation that went into effect on January 1st of this year, all that's done away with. He dies, she gets all of his benefit. She can get up to 1/2. It's a monumental change, Brian, because we have always, as retirement planners, we've had to plan differently when someone worked in the public sector, because we had to be aware that Pin, for example, if her husband died, he might need a life insurance policy to help make up for the difference. Now, maybe he doesn't need as much life insurance because she's going to get all of his Social Security. Bottom line is, I know it's kind of a silly story, but it's a monumental change. So if you're still working in state government or a school teacher, just know that this change will impact you in the positive way dramatically. So that's one of the big That's one of the big changes going forward.
Yeah, it is huge. Cops, firefighters,
Mhm.
everybody, literally, man,
Massive.
everybody who puts their lives to service, really. If
Exactly.
you're putting service first, you've been getting punished for it on the back end. So, yeah, kudos to Congressman Graves on the House side. Senator Cassidy picked it up on the Senate side. And the number of co-sponsors he got for this bill has been just, he's leaving D.C. with a little history under his belt.
He is. Well, Brian, there are some that will argue that, it was a fair system because people didn't pay into Social Security. Look, you could make that argument if Pin, my school teacher, if she didn't pay in, you could argue maybe she shouldn't have been entitled to as much from her husband while he's living. But how can you punish someone, and it unfairly punished females,
Right.
How can you punish someone if their spouse dies?
Right.
My wife, Alyssa, has never worked in the public sector. If I die, she gets all of my Social Security. Why should someone be punished just because they worked and they served? It never made sense to me, and I'm so glad this law has been changed.
Same, absolutely. We're talking with Matt Kennedy from Presley Wealth Management, talking a little bit about, not just what has been, but what will be. Matt, with the changing of the guard in Washington, D.C., how is this going to change your approach when talking with clients? What can we expect when it comes to long-term planning?
Yeah, our approach for long-term remains the same. You build a plan. If you're close to retiring or already retired, you want to focus not on your rate of return, but on your range of return. We've talked about that before,
Yes.
right? When you're working and saving, if the stock market shoots up or falls low, you can deal with it. But when you're close to retiring or in retirement, you want to smooth out the highs and lows, and that's what we focus on. So we absolutely feel that we could see some lows this year. There's a lot of enthusiasm over a very Wall Street-friendly president going back into office. I mean, as soon as we get the Gulf of America set up, everything will be fine.
Yes.
Yeah. But listen, Donald Trump faces some serious headwinds economically. They're struggling, Brian, to get inflation under control.
Yeah.
And you saw the stock market sell off yesterday. It'll bounce back today. But whenever Wall Street sees high inflation, it gets very nervous because that eats into earnings from companies, especially technology companies. And number one, they've got to get inflation under control. Number two, there probably will be some recessionary headwinds this year. So a 10 to 15% market downturn over the next 6 months wouldn't surprise us at all. And also, what have I always said on this show? Wall Street, stock market, et cetera, it likes consistency. Donald Trump is not a consistent president. He's going to come in and rattle some cages from what has been. And I think you would agree in a good way. But when cages get rattled, it makes the stock market nervous. So don't be surprised if we see some bumpy waters over the next 6 to 8 months. But we feel like the trajectory, because he is so Wall Street friendly, the trajectory forward over the next 4 years is probably very good.
You talk about that Wall Street likes consistency, and that's been in the back of my mind before even dialing up your number this morning. How does it play knowing you've got a one-term president here? Knowing that, I mean, from day one he's lame duck. How does that affect consistency?
I'm going to say this, and I hope it's not offensive, but
when have you ever worried about that?
Yeah, okay, whatever. Donald Trump as a one-term president is much less risky, if you will, than, say, if a Joe Biden had been elected to a second term. Just because he is so business-friendly, he's so economically friendly, he doesn't believe in over-regulation like the previous administration. But yet, look, here's the thing that is very surprising. Despite the fact that Joe Biden was a lot of that, right? He was not necessarily business-friendly. He put a lot of pressure on the oil and gas sector, et cetera, et cetera. Stock market still did pretty good.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the last 2 years, it did very good.
Yeah.
And so when it's at all-time highs, there has to be some capitulation. But I think that the fact that Donald Trump is a one-term president doesn't have a lot of concern for Wall Street because, look, presidents come and go every 4 years, every 8 at the most. And if you're planning for a retirement that's going to last 30 years, you just have to ride it out. But we feel very positive going forward.
When Donald Trump was last in the White House, the economy was firing on all cylinders before COVID hit.
Yep.
How long do you give it before we get back to that?
Probably, in my opinion, we'll start seeing that worm kind of turn at the end of this year.
Okay.
And then we could, because some legislative changes have to take place, right? We've got to get the Gulf of America taken care of. And then we have to also, of course, conquer or buy Greenland, whichever comes first. But when all of that, no, seriously, I think there will be some headwinds this year. But going forward, I think the economy will fire on all cylinders in the final, let's say, 2.5 to 3 years of his administration. But again, the recessionary thing is an issue, but inflation's got to come down. You know, quite frankly, we've been lied to by the Biden administration. The numbers that we're getting about inflation are not accurate, in my opinion, and it's still worse than has been admitted. And I don't know if that means that the Feds is going to slow down cutting interest rates. If they do that, that would actually hurt Wall Street. It'll be interesting to see what approach President Trump takes.
You know, the cool thing about the Gulf of America, Matt, is like if Biden canceled all drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, it's not the Gulf of Mexico anymore. So we can just go right back to it because we gave it a different name.
See, Donald Trump is so smart.
Mm-hmm.
I hesitated using that word. He's so smart and conniving that maybe it's not a joke. Maybe that's his whole reasoning. But we can drill in the Gulf of America. We've never drilled there before. What are you talking about?
Right. It's you banned the Gulf of Mexico. This is the Gulf of America. Meanwhile, I'll tell you what I'm really looking forward to, Matt, is when, you know, you have a realtor show Donald Trump around Greenland, Canada, and Panama Canal in the next episode of House Hunters.
I love it. That's beautiful. Can you imagine?
Where can folks...
Go ahead. Is he a straight or an effeminate house hunter?
That's every episode. Oh, my goodness. Where can
Just
folks
curious
find
how
you?
that'll play in Greenland.
Yeah.
Listen, we're here on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock, 9 till 10 a.m. Your money matters. But listen, remember, it's a long-term plan. Presidents come, presidents go. You may like them, you may hate them, but it's your money, so let's get it positioned right for retirement. We're at 791-5773, and you can listen to us Saturday mornings at 9. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Matt. We'll talk to you soon, brother. Got to get him up to Washington Mardi Gras. And then, yes, Presley Wealth Management, one of the sponsors of our Washington Mardi Gras coverage, to be sure. Always appreciate when Matt hops on board. For those that don't know the backstory, if you, it's hard to believe it's been this long, but Matt was just an absolute legendary radio host in Baton Rouge for about 30 years. First one to hire me, train me, taught me a lot of what I know. Love him like a brother, always will. And now he's with Presley Wealth Management and just crushing it over there. Yes, you can hear Your Money Now Saturday mornings right here on Talk 107.3 FM. We got ABC News coming up in just a little bit. We'll check local news, traffic, weather. Congressman Garret Graves is going to stop by for D.C. Current, presented by LABI. Looking forward to this. I thought we were all done. I thought with the end of the year, we were going to close the chapter on having Congressman Graves with us for D.C. Current, presented by LABI. But I got to thinking, I was like, man, you know what? He got so much done in that final stretch, and now that the president has signed off on his hard work, man, maybe get in one recap episode. Maybe reach out to the congressman and say, hey, let's, I don't want to say a full-on victory lap, but a lot of work got done there. So that's what we're going to do when we come back. News, traffic, weather. Congressman Garret Graves in for D.C. Current, presented by LABI next. Before we get you to news, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's. It is carnival time, which means a couple different things. Number one, if you're attending a ball, okay, if you're going to a Mardi Gras ball and the catering isn't already provided, you got to bring a little something for the table, as it were. Hit up Mathern's.com. Hit up the Mathern's Rewards app. Bring a sandwich tray. Bring a chicken finger tray. Bring a boudin ball tray. In fact, they've got 53 different trays you can choose from. Yeah, it's right there for you on the app. If you are not worried about the Mardi Gras ball, but a little more worried about the parade, well, they're downtown, nestled between 3rd and 4th Street. Right along the route, you'll find them. If you need to reload, you didn't stock up enough when you hit the parade, you can hit up Mathern's. Right now, we're hitting up news. Oh, by the way, I have an interview at 9:30. Yeah. Bird flu. The interview is about bird flu. I'm going to go poke my head out and see if the congressman might, by the off chance, be on in person. I don't think he is. I think he's on the phone. speaks for itself. That stands for itself. Ooh-wee. Galen says the annual health insurance dance is a real pain. Why does it have to be so difficult and time consuming? Yeah. I go through it every, October? And I don't want anything different. That's the crazy part. You know, like if you're at a bar and you want another beer, you say, I'll have another. One more of the same, please. No. Definitely a cold start to the morning. Where do we go from here? Well, here's your forecast with WBRZ meteorologist Emma Kate Cowan. Yeah. There he is. Keep it going during the promo. Download the free Talk 1073 mobile app. Find out what you missed each day at talk1073.com and watch us live on Facebook and the Talk 1073 Baton Rouge YouTube channel, all courtesy of Lake Urgent Care. Lake Urgent Care, walk-in care for minor illnesses and injuries. He's all done for now. Congressman Garret Graves. But I didn't want to be done with D.C. Current just yet. I wanted one more visit with the congressman who's on the hotline right now. Congressman Graves, how are you? Happy New Year, sir.
Hey, thanks, Brian. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing very well as well. I was glad to hear you up for this. A little bit of a retrospective, if we could, to kind of take the last decade into account. Just kind of look back on some of the things you got done while you were there.
Well, look, it has been a heck of a decade in regard to some of the things we've been able to pull off, and I think it goes back to being a hard-headed kid when people tell you no, sometimes you refuse to take no for an answer. And so just going back and looking at things like, as we've recently been talking about, Social Security Fairness Act and fixing this issue that has been plaguing and discriminating against a certain group of retirees now for 40 years, and the Comey project that's been stuck for 30 years, and the West Shore project that's been stuck for 50 years, and just really continuing to push against some of these projects, some of these initiatives that have been stuck, problematic, unresolved for as long as they have. I think just looking back over the 10 years and the progress that we've been able to make on some of those things is great. Now, of course, Brian, there are a few things we didn't get done before we left, and I want to be clear that there are some frustrations or disappointments related to those, but certainly when I look back in total, and not just my own statistics, they're folks that have actually done analysis looking at effectiveness, and they have found that over that period of time that we have ranked as one of the most effective members of Congress in terms of being able to get things done.
We're talking with Congressman Garret Graves. This is DC Current, presented by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Okay, because of recency bias, obviously we're going to start with Social Security fairness. And if I'm being brutally honest, I kind of went off on a little bit of a rant yesterday. As the president signed it into law and the president got all this praise, I don't think I saw your name once over the weekend with the Social Security Fairness Act moving forward. I was like, the number of hours that we've put in just talking about the number of hours that you've put in working on this thing. We heard WEP and GPO about 1 billion times over the course of the last year, and nary a mention. So let's start with that one. I have to, because it's what's freshest right now. It's the freshest wound right now. But let's start with that. Obviously, a huge accomplishment. Obviously, kudos are across the board from a number of different people who are finally going to get what they're owed. Finally going to get what they've earned within their families. Talk to us a little bit about some of the behind the scenes stuff that it took to get this done. You talked a lot of people into being co-sponsors of this.
We did, and ended up becoming the most co-sponsored bill in all of Congress. And for those that aren't affected, the quick story is that people that were police officers, teachers, firefighters, and other public jobs like that in state and local government, they literally get a reduction in Social Security benefits compared to other people that paid in the exact same amount into Social Security taxes. And so this just fixes that 40-year injustice. And so, Brian, got together with Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, who is our bipartisan co-sponsor on this. She's out of Virginia. And we also put together a little kitchen cabinet of people. So we had the Fraternal Order of Police, the firefighters, the teachers, just all these groups that were so affected. And we started meeting on a regular basis. So instead of just, kind of saying everybody charge, we said, no, let's actually be strategic here. Let's sit down and talk. Okay, Congressman Smith won't co-sponsor because of this. Is there something we can talk to her, explain to her that would get her on board? And so just being very strategic about how we were going to move forward. Okay, this week, let's focus on Congressman Jones, and let's see if we can convince him to get on board, and just kind of going one by one. The chair of the Tax Writing Committee, Jason Smith, is a good friend of mine. I was able to sit down with him, spend a lot of time with him, because I was on steering committee, the committee that chose who the chairs are, and talking to him about the importance of this, got him to commit to have a hearing in Louisiana. Whenever we started moving forward, we did negotiate and try and get to a place to where we were all on board. We ultimately couldn't get to a place where we all agreed, but he agreed to not get in the way of some of our efforts to move the bill forward, doing for about the fourth time in 30 years, laying out this discharge petition process where we were able to move the bill forward without going through the committee, a very rare process, but it was a way for us to flex the muscles on all the co-sponsors. And then Chuck Schumer was telling all of the groups that, we're just going to add this to an end-of-the-year appropriations package. Well, you saw how the end-of-the-year appropriations package went. So we got together with Spanberger. We got together with all the groups. We told them you cannot allow Schumer to make that commitment. It'll be certain death of this bill. I ended up going to a big rally on the Senate side, and I announced that Schumer was going to have the bill as a standalone vote before he did. So we did a lot of things that were interesting behind the scenes stories. There were a number of other things that I won't reveal everything quite yet. But there were a lot of things that happened at the end of the day. This was really incredible. The stars aligned. I can't give Congresswoman Spanberger, enough shout out. She was a great friend and partner through this, and obviously we don't agree on everything, but she really was good to work with. And there were a few times where we didn't agree, and things got a little heated a few times, but we were able to work it out. And now, Brian, not only are we going to have these folks for Social Security benefits restored, some people that get no benefits at all are going to suddenly start getting Social Security benefits, but the other is, because of the way the bill was written and because we did not make a single change to it, folks are actually going to get a lump sum payment for how much they missed in 2024, and then payments will resume under what will be called kind of a restored rate in a few months starting in 2025. So this really is going to be a huge difference maker in a lot of these people's lives. In fact, many of them currently rely upon welfare programs, social welfare programs, to make ends meet today, and that will change.
We got Congressman Garret Graves with us, D.C. Current, presented by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Next biggest, or I don't want to rank biggest or side by side, but where do we leave the Comey Diversion Canal? Has everything been done in Washington that can be done in Washington?
As of today, yes.
Okay.
And Comey Project, you're aware that this is kind of the work I used to do before I came to Congress, and very familiar with it. Whenever we had problems, I think there were a lot of issues there that were kind of lost in translation. We had environmental and mitigation issues. We had legal issues. We had funding issues, authorization issues. And, Paul Sawyer, our chief of staff, Paul's been working on this project as long as anyone, knows it really well. And between the two of us, able just to walk through and knock out every single one of those things. Currently, there's about $974 million in the bank, which is the estimated total cost, or right around the estimated total cost of this project. The Corps of Engineers and I have a little bit of a difference on what we think final cost is. But ultimately, all the money's in the bank. Project's moving forward. It has cost a ton more than they told us it was, and quite frankly, than it should have. And it's taking a lot longer. But I will say that right now, all the money is in the bank to finish this project, and I think that if there's any scenario where it comes up short financially, it's going to be a small amount relative to the $974 million, and I think that will put a ton of pressure on a White House and Congress to finish it, meaning if it's 98% finished, there's no way they're going to let it stay at 98% finished. So I expect this project will be functionally complete in the next few years, and we will see the three parishes of East Baton Rouge, Livingston, and Ascension get the benefits they deserve.
Rewinding the clock a little bit further, just kind of encapsulating your 10 years in Congress. You were there for about a year and a half before the flood in Baton Rouge. How did your office handle that impact-wise and help-wise?
Well, it's another area where I've had a lot of background and experience, and I think that's why having a diverse group of people in Congress is helpful. But we totally changed the organizational structure. We brought people from our Washington office down to Louisiana, and just had this surge of thousands and thousands of cases with SBA and FEMA and other agencies. So we really stepped in and tried to address some of the acute needs of individuals, while we were also had our team in Washington kind of taking the casework and translating that into what was needed, which meant more money for FEMA, which meant more money for the Corps of Engineers to do projects that we had already started in our year and a half for flood protection type projects like Five Bayous, and And so it really does change things a lot. But I'll tell you, one of the things that's really great about it, and you get frustrated by Congress by its dysfunction, but this is something that worked, is having our Washington staff involved in what was going on in Louisiana with some of the casework. It really became apparent what was needed, where money was needed, where we needed to change laws to make things more functional. And one thing that we did as a result of the 2016 flood that will be a change in perpetuity is that right now you can, just off of your cell phone, actually provide permission to your member of Congress and the federal agencies to offer you help. That was something that was prohibited prior to the 2016 flood because of a 1974, I believe, law, the Privacy Act of 1974. It was legally prohibited, and we changed that in the law, allowing for people to just offer their permission through cell phones, getting much faster service from their members of Congress and from their agencies. We got together in the aftermath of the 2016 flood with Congressman Joe Kennedy out of Massachusetts and made that change in law. So a number of things we did that have been, they're going to have lasting impacts that resulted from the 2016 flood.
What was left unfinished that you would have liked a little more time on?
Brian, there are two things that I'll admit that do get to me in terms of things that I consider unfinished. Number one is duplication of benefits for that small group of 10 to 20% of the 2016 flood victims where they got a loan but were deemed ineligible for a grant because they, quote, made too much money, which was around $62,000 a year. They didn't consider relativity of how much people lost financially. I think it's just incredibly flawed. We had changed the law, as you know, after passing this through the House several times, finally got the Senate to agree to it after jamming them. We did the same thing with the Senate on this last 10 to 20% of people that are stuck. And we passed it through the House about 3 times and couldn't get the Senate to act. We came very close to getting it done at the end of the year. Senator Rand Paul objected. So that's one thing. The second thing is this one hurts, is a new bridge crossing the Mississippi River. Yeah. I knew we weren't going to get it built while I was in Congress, but I at least thought that we would be able to initiate construction and really frustrated by that. I mean, the fact that it took them 7 years to come up with 32 different alignment options, the fact that they still haven't narrowed it down to one, these things are inexcusable. We've raised concerns about how slow they were going early on. They told us that, oh, no, we're going to get this done. And, of course, they didn't. I do, while I express frustration with some of the efforts under John Bel Edwards' administration on this, I also do have to give him credit. He went to the mat and tried to set aside $500 million as a down payment to begin the bridge. I think that's fantastic. We put things in federal and legislation passed through the House several times, helping to get the bridge moving forward. And, of course, we did fund upgrades to LA1 and LA30 on the east and west sides. But that's a big regret, that something that I really wish we could have been able to finish before, at least get the bridge started before I left Congress.
What are you going to miss most about D.C.?
I think there are two main things. One of them is as much as people are frustrated by Congress, and I think deservedly so, by the slow pace and the crazy, often motivations for things getting done and things getting killed, there are some good people up there. And I am going to miss working with some of the new friends that I made up there and the handful of good people. I wish there were more good people, but some of them. The second thing is this. Look, Brian, you sit here on radio, people drive in their cars, they hear these stories, they're just like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this is happening. It's frustrating. When I hear that as a member of Congress, oftentimes I'm in a position to help fix it. If you hear about that story of that person who wasn't being treated right by the Veterans Administration, that veteran that's on the street didn't get the health care or the mental health services that they needed. You hear about that person who the IRS is just chasing after and unjustly trying to make them pay money for something. You see things like the only place in America where the interstate funnels to a single lane.
Right.
In Congress, you're in a position to fix those things, and so that's one of the things that I am going to miss, is not being able to follow up on the frustration or the amazement that something is going on, not being able to follow up and actually be in a position to fix it. That's one of the greatest things about being in Congress, and I tell our team all the time, you will not have another job in your life where you're in a position to actually fix things like you are here. And you really, really need to take advantage of the role that we're able to play in being able to change people's lives. And truly, on an individual basis, Brian, there have been scenarios where we have made life-changing impact on folks on an individual basis, dealing with Social Security Administration, dealing with the VA, dealing with the IRS, prevented businesses from closing and other things when people were being treated unjustly, taking people out of bankruptcy, and then, of course, on the macro scale, helping to protect people's homes and lives through the Five Bayous Project, through the Highway 22 project, through some of the work we've done on the Comey Project, the AMET, the West Shore, Morganza to the Gulf, providing employment opportunities by deepening the Mississippi River. I mean, just lowering people's blood pressure through some of the traffic solutions we've been able to fund. It's been an amazing time. It really has.
Last one before I get you out of here. Are you still in the exhale phase, or do we know what we're doing next?
I think I'm still in the exhale phase a little bit. I just went and participated in a big aviation conference and just got back from that. Now I think is when reality sets in that I need to figure out what I'm doing for a job, and so I'm gonna be spending the next few weeks, I think, really focusing on that. It's hard to focus on what's next in a job when you're in Congress. There are a lot of ethical restrictions and other things, and so it's just much easier once you get out. So that's what I plan on really focusing on for the next few weeks and trying to figure that out.
Well, once again, I appreciate your service. It's been an honor to vote for you the number of times that I've been able to vote for you. Thank you for making yourself so available to us on the radio and for doing the work you've done, Congressman Garret Graves. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. I think you just like the food, but okay. Thank you. Take care.
All right, you too. Absolutely. So for those that don't know, when he stops by in studio, he always brings us some little goodies. So, you know what, though? Following his Facebook page, I think I know what he's doing next. He's going to take Guy Fieri's job. Every time he tours the district, everything is at a different, at a different eatery. So, diners, drive-ins, and dives. Look out, Guy Fieri. Garret Graves is coming for you, man. All right, we're way long. Quick break. Coming back next on Talk 107.3. Seriously?
Yeah, we got less than 2 minutes.
Okay. Oh, so cold. When we go to news, I got to go get my power cable for my laptop before it full on dies. Coming up on 7:59 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Thanks again to Congressman Garret Graves for hopping on board. I know we ran super long right there, and I don't really apologize for it. I wanted to give him as much room to run as is humanly possible because he's wrapping up a decade of serving us in Washington, D.C., and the comments reflect the sentiment, to be sure. Got a couple texts and a couple DMs during the break right there saying he's one of a kind. Time in D.C. cut too short, to be sure, but, man, Cleo Fields has quite the bar to hurdle. Quite the Garret raised the bar. That's plain and simple. All right, hour 3 is next. All right, power cable. Matt Flynn just called me handsome. Yeah. Former LSU quarterback. He and Hester are like besties. He's in hang out with Jake and T-Bob. He's so effing cold in here. Oh, there we go. Do what? .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. I think we're down to like 5 degrees in studio at this point. We're at 31 in downtown Baton Rouge. It is just cold in here. We got a busy hour coming your way this hour. Charlie Davis is the new Chief Administrative Officer for Mayor President Sid Edwards. He's going to join us in our next segment, talk about the job, talk about the new gig. Talk about where they want to take it. I mean, every CAO has kind of a different role, right? It depends on the mayor president and the working relationship therein. We'll talk with Charlie in our next segment. Also this hour, Sergeant Rob Berrere from NOPD is going to join us. He's a homicide detective, and we actually got him on to talk about a new show that's on A&E called Homicide Squad New Orleans. Now, when I booked the interview, it was to talk about the show. Obviously, since then, things have transpired. So we're probably going to do a little bit of talking about New Year's morning as well. But Sergeant Rob Berrere coming up at 8:40. Right now, though, time to roll back the clock. Time for this day in history. All right, Sean.
All right. Let's start off in 1790, where the
Okay.
first U.S. President, George Washington, delivers the first State of the Union address.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
First State of the Union was today?
today.
All right.
Hey, check this out. 1815, Battle of New Orleans.
Yeah.
The War of 1812. The
Yeah.
war had ended on the 24th of December
Doesn't
of
matter.
1814,
Yeah.
but none of the combatants knew.
They did not get the email.
Yeah.
Did you not get I sent the memo.
Sent the
Would you
memo.
like me to resend the memo?
By way of pigeon.
Yeah. No, it was and we got the help of pirates. That's Jean Lafitte, right?
Yes.
That's how that plays.
Yes, indeed. Check this
Yeah.
out. 1902, New York State Assemblyman Francis G. Landon gets a bill passed to criminalize men turning around on a street and, quote, looking at a woman in that way.
Like the meme?
Yes. Criminalize.
He criminalized the meme. Good
Oh,
century and a
man.
half before the meme happened.
Yeah. Oh, man. 1918, Mississippi becomes...
Looking at a woman in that way.
In that way.
In that way.
It's
in
quoted.
that way.
Looking at a woman in that way.
Yeah.
Criminalize that.
Good
Man.
luck proving that in a court of law, huh?
Yeah.
It was in that. He gave him that look. Your Honor, he gave the look.
Right.
He
right.
gave him that look.
Shows the meme. It'd be funny, right? How did it look? Would it look like this?
Look just like the meme.
Yeah.
Look just like that.
1918, Mississippi becomes the first state to ratify the 18th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, authorizing the prohibition of alcohol.
Good for
Okay.
them. How'd that work out?
Yeah. 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson declares war on poverty. War on poverty.
All right. Did poverty fight back? Did poverty engage in the war? Hey, I got to run and let the next guest in. Normally I wouldn't bail in the middle of a segment, but it's
okay.
cold out there, so I'll be right back.
Leave me high and dry. You're good. No, no, you're good.
You're indoors.
All right, we got this. Hey, 1992, George H.W. Bush falls ill and vomits on Japanese Prime Minister's lap. Yikes. 1993, NBC offers The Tonight Show to David Letterman. A lot happened in 93, actually. 93 was also when Conan, also, not on this day, but just that year in general, Conan O'Brien was also taking over late night in 93. A 1998 Unabomber suspect, Ted Kaczynski, asked to act as his own lawyer. So that happened as well. 2002, U.S. President George W. Bush signs into law the No Child Left Behind Act, providing financial assistance to schools exhibiting academic improvement. And also this day in 2021, Twitter bans U.S. President Donald Trump permanently due to the risk of further incitement of violence.
Yeah, we got to rethink that word permanent, though, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Because he's back in full force on Twitter, for sure. And wait, is he back on Facebook now?
I don't know.
Like, if you're Mark Zuckerberg,
I would think so, right?
You cut him a check for the transition.
Yeah. Welcomes them back.
You bring on Dana White.
Open meta arms. To
your board. I think give him his account back, right?
Absolutely.
What birthdays do we have today? Oh,
let's start with Elvis, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here. Stephen Hawking as well. What? What are you laughing at?
Well, the thought of pairing those two together,
right?
I mean, that's quite the stage show.
Stephen Hawking singing Elvis.
Yeah.
There you go. Wait, so David Bowie, speaking of singers today as well.
Yeah, I got another singer in that mix, too.
Who we got?
R. Kelly.
R. Kelly today.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. You have a favorite R. Kelly song? Before, you know.
No.
Before things came out.
Obviously, before everything came out.
We all had one.
Okay. What's yours?
I Believe I Can Fly.
Really?
And I say that because Space Jam soundtrack, like that as a kid, I don't know. It was so good. I Wish was another good one.
Step in the Name of Love.
Okay.
Step in the Name of Love. Underrated. Remix to Ignition probably.
I was going to say
too.
probably Ignition.
But Step in the Name of Love, probably the smoothest of all of them.
Yeah, nice. Moving on to deaths?
No.
Oh, you got some more. Okay.
I got more birthdays for sure.
Roll.
Absolutely. Kim Jong-un.
Oh, I did.
Yep. Kim Jong-un was born on this day in... So it says 1984 question mark.
Right. I'm seeing the same thing.
All right. So I just want to make sure I had that right.
No, yeah, yeah.
Who else did we have here? I had two more at least.
Not documented, I'm sure. Like births in North Korea. I'm pretty sure it's not a...
Oh, I'm sorry. I had one more. Former Saints quarterback. Get ready for this throwback. Billy Joe Hobart.
All right.
Yeah.
Billy Joe. Hey, Galileo today for deaths.
Yep.
Dave Thomas. Wendy's.
Was it Wendy's Dave Thomas?
Yes, Wendy's Dave Thomas.
And not the actor Dave Thomas?
No. This is, he opened his first Wendy's in Columbus, Ohio, November 15th, 1969. But yes, it is that Dave.
All right. Also, Marco Polo.
Okay.
The man, not the game.
Oh.
Yeah, died on this day in 1324.
Did the game stem from the guy? Was he just like...
Well, he was an explorer. He was an explorer,
so that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey. All right. You, National Days?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Show and Tell at Work Day.
No. That should not be a thing.
Oh, I guess
Why is that a thing?
I guess I won't.
That's... No, no.
Oh, sorry.
It's no. Is there? Why is that? Oh, okay.
War on Poverty Day as well today.
Sure.
National Take the Stairs Day.
You know what? I'm down for that. Every day should be Take the Stairs Day.
That's it.
Right?
Absolutely.
We're coming up on 8:14 to talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Quick break. When we come back, time to dive into the Sid Edwards administration. Chief Administrative Officer Charlie Davis joins us next. Come on in, man. Yep. Yes. And we're on Talks YouTube as well. So, yeah, the camera's right there. And, yeah, it's always on. So. Kill the mics for a sec. All right. It's 8:18 to Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time to dive in to the new mayoral administration here in town. Mayor President Sid Edwards, who was on with us last week, I believe just a couple, well, shouldn't say a couple of hours before swearing in, but half a day before swearing in. Joining us now is Charlie Davis, the CAO. How are you, sir?
I'm doing amazing, Brian. Thanks for having us.
No, glad to have you on here. Glad to be talking about everything that is to come. You and I were just talking during the break. There's a lot of excitement right now. There's a lot of hope and positivity right now.
You know, I've been describing it as if all over the city and the parish, people from all walks of life have rolled out the red carpet for Coach Sid.
Yeah.
I mean, there is an enthusiasm that I can't recall really ever seeing for elected official. I don't say politician. I will say elected official. I mean, this guy has spent his life giving and helping, and his story is, wow. It's like it'll tug at your heartstrings more than a Hallmark movie. I mean, It's just an incredible big heart that he's had, and there's decade upon decade of consistency. And so it's really it's so encouraging and motivating for the staff that we're recruiting to be helping and supporting him.
Walk me through the process. How did you get tagged for your gig?
So I helped a little bit early on, the very early days, of helping to raise some money through the party and other things like that. But mostly, I've just been a community activist for a long time here in Baton Rouge, helping with education reform, helping with criminal justice reform. And so I'd met Coach, a little bit over time, but we weren't personal friends. I got the call after he won the race. I was actually out of town. I was up in Pennsylvania. My son was a finalist for a full scholarship. Our oldest is about to fly the coop and go to college. So I was out of town on election night and got the call a day or so later to see if I'd be interested in meeting with him and talking about the position. But I felt like it behooves all of us. And for those of you listening, we're recruiting lots of people, coaches, recruiting new police officers, we're recruiting new staff. We really need people, good people, to step up, and help change the future of Baton Rouge.
Well, and when we had Coach on, like the morning after the Monday after the runoff election, I was asking him about transition team and whatnot, and he's still, there's going to be a learning curve with a lot of it because he's not a politician by career choice. He's there now. He's technically described as one because he is an elected official. But I was asking about transition team. He said somewhere between 2 is too few and 20 is probably too many. I'm like, oh, we've passed that.
Oh,
we're well past that. But it's and I don't know if this is his mindset, but he's a football coach, bringing everybody for tryouts and then make cuts later. That would be the football mantra, right?
I'm not sure that's quite how all the different leagues do it, but Coach has a galvanizing and infectious personality.
Yeah,
and people are calling. Can I be in this transition team? Can I be in this transition team? Can I help with this project? I have this idea, and we want lots of ideas and lots of people to help executing. So we'll probably keep adding to the transition team as well.
Yeah, no doubt. We've got Charlie Davis, CAO for the Edwards administration, in with us. Okay, CAO plays a different role depending on the mayor president. How do you see your role?
My number one goal is to help Coach Sid implement and execute his vision for Baton Rouge, right? And so if you think about what he said on the campaign trail, is he wants to tackle North Baton Rouge. He wants to create really an economic renaissance, but that starts with the basics. It starts with crime and public safety, right? It starts with blight. And so I'm here to support him and help him execute on his vision, and regardless of what that looks like, whether that's helping to fix a department, restructuring a department, reaching out to elected officials around the state and our surrounding parishes, really putting together, increasing the way people work together. Like, there are lots of different programs with similar initiatives not talking to each other in Baton Rouge. We could talk for days, not hours, on all the work that has to be done. But at the end of the day, my responsibility is to help Coach implement his vision for the city.
We have had a problem in this city for some time of having people in two different camps. You've got the naysayers and the cheerleaders. And the naysayers will never acknowledge the good, and the cheerleaders will never acknowledge the warts. How do we go about making sure that both of those camps can be aware of the other side?
That's a great question. I think that it's become a little bit of a cliche to hear our kids say, one day when I leave Baton Rouge. My daughter said that to me a couple of years ago, and I was caught off guard. What do you mean one day when you leave Baton Rouge? What are you talking about, right? Where did this come from? And it's an interesting concept where people feel like they're going to grow up here and it was great, but, right, I enjoyed LSU, but, or it was fun, but, I have friends, but, and we have to change that. But the part of changing that is not ignoring the problems, it's addressing them head on and fixing them. Look, we have a traffic problem in this city. I'll be honest with you. Except for once every other year when LSU beats Alabama late one Saturday night, right. I don't want to sit in traffic. I'm fine that night. Maybe a Saturday in March after the St. Patrick's Day parade, I'll sit in a little bit of traffic, but I don't want to sit in it every day, right? But those are problems that took decades to happen, and they're not going to get fixed in minutes, right? But you have to tackle crime, you have to tackle education, you have to tackle opportunity, because they all go together. How do you pick one? You got to start somewhere, right? We're starting with public safety. Our my first hire was Chief Jeff LaDuff, who is a beloved Baton Rouge citizen, incredible reputation, not just for being effective, but high integrity, high ethics. We started this week with Chief LaDuff and Chief Morse and Coach addressing the brand new cadets at the Baton Rouge Police Academy. Let me tell you, we need a lot more cadets. But once that story hit the air, we were told by Chief Morris that already people have started calling in to see if it's too late to join the police force. And so that's the kind of thing that you're going to see from Coach Edwards, because he is a coach, because he knows how to recruit, he knows how to motivate, he knows how to encourage, he knows how to galvanize people toward a common objective. Recruiting to the police force is one area of public safety. Mm-hmm. What else is on the map as far as, not to get too granular, but what else would be the top priorities for helping with public safety? The recruiting and morale, right? followed by better integration and better communication between the different cities and the parish. But it starts with more people, and it starts with morale. I think that's the first thing you're going to see, both from the experience that Chief LaDuff has and from Coach Sid Edwards, how much those guys care, and they have decades to back up what they're talking about, and people believe them and they want to follow them.
I want a follow-up interview with Chief LaDuff as well, because he was a morale guy. He was a cop's cop, to be sure. And I believe I read somewhere where his last year on the job, we had 47 homicides. And that's a number that needs to be sought.
Yeah.
Because where we're at right now is beyond, it's not livable. We've got Charlie Davison, the CAO for the Sid Edwards administration. Okay, public safety, the number one priority right now. What's priority number 2 or 1A?
Closely related to public safety is part of reducing crime in Baton Rouge is building jobs in North Baton Rouge, right? Part of creating jobs in North Baton Rouge is removing blight. In parts of South Baton Rouge, tall grass is considered blight. Your neighbor parks their car in the street instead of the driveway, and people get mad. Like, we have different definitions of blight in different parts of the city, but we have parts of the city where there are drug dealers living in abandoned houses, right? There are substantial problems that prevent economic development and prevent grocery stores and prevent new jobs. And so when we talk about repairing crime, we're not just talking about more morale in the police force. That's 1A. We're also talking about changing the economic dynamics in our city so that we have more development, so we have more jobs, so people have, encouragement and hope for their life, that they're not attracted to crime.
This is not an overnight problem to fix. Obviously, this is, like you said, it's generations in the making. It's going to take a generation to get the whole way out of it. How on this, like, you're in the very first chapter, you're in the prelogue at this, you're not even in the first chapter yet. How do you get to
we're in the preamble?
Yeah. How do you get to where it's not paralysis by analysis? How do you get to where it's not, it's not so overwhelming that folks throw their hands up? Because we've seen that time and again.
It's a great question. Coach and I have talked a lot about the idea that from a business perspective, and I've spent most of my career in business, you have to say no to good things so you can say yes to great things. That is really, really challenging because we want to substantially change the way Baton Rouge operates. We're not here to make it 10% better.
Right. That requires patience.
It requires patience. It requires focus. One of the things Coach is great at is getting the right people in the right seats on the bus. It's become a bit of cliche, last 20 or 25 years since Jim Collins first published it in that book. But it's a blueprint for success. If you don't have the right people, not just the right people, but the right people in the right seats, all going in the same direction, there's nothing that you can get done. The bureaucracy generally eats good people alive, right? Most of the employees, a lot of the employees are great people. They're just sort of hamstrung and handcuffed by the bureaucracy that's grown up over the last 100 years.
Can that be addressed like right out the blocks? I feel like that's something that, it might take a little bit of time to clean up, but we're heavy on the administrative end.
Nothing in government moves fast as much as you and I would like it to. Right. Our job is we're not gonna break something unless we know how we're gonna put it back together. Right. Like, we want to make sure things are steadily getting better while we invest our time and energy on some big wins. Focusing on Chief LaDuff, focusing on the police, recruiting new officers, figuring out how to pay them more. All these things are critical things that we have to go first, and we have to be focused on. I'll tell you, sort of one of my mental models that I do life by is that everybody lives life on invisible financial escalators, right? Some people in our society wake up over time and they're wealthier almost every day, and it compounds. And some people wake up poor every day. And if you're on this, and a lot of that has to do with inflation, not things in Baton Rouge outside of our control, right? But still, there are still things we can control here. And so if you're on a downward sloping escalator and you're a little poorer every day, you're mad. You might not be mad at the right person, but you can feel it, even though you can't see it, right? If you live in a neighborhood where your home is not appreciating every year, right? If you live in a neighborhood where you can't pull equity out of your house when you need to start a company, right? If you're not on an escalator that's at least neutral, if not going up, life is really, really challenging.
All right, give us a little bit of a timeline. This is our first of many, many conversations.
looking
I know
forward
we're
to
almost out of time for right now, but 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and just as what can listeners expect? What can constituents, what can Baton Rougeans expect over those 3 time periods?
I think people are going to feel better, and they're going to start seeing it better. They're going to be motivated. There's going to be a change in the culture of Baton Rouge where people are seeing the numbers get better on crime. They're feeling the fact that their kids are saying, "Hey, I want to come back to Baton Rouge." Right? They're gonna. I think it's going to feel a lot better for the citizens.
He is Charlie Davis, the Chief Administrative Officer for Mayor President Coach Sid Edwards. I appreciate you coming in for a couple minutes this morning.
You got it, buddy. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We are about to hit ABC News, then local news, traffic, weather. When we come back after that, we're talking with NOPD. That's coming up next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolls on. Yeah, it was way too fast.
Man, that flew by.
Yeah, it did. And so
I wasn't sure if that was an ad for Berrere if we were talking about him.
it's an ad. They're sponsors of the show.
Gotcha.
They actually their sponsorship doesn't pick back up again until March, but yeah, they're sponsors. It's an added value for all my sponsors. It's a rolling, so it'll go from Breck back to the morning's logo, and then like affects European or PF Chang's or somebody. So. The
That's good stuff.
thank you, I appreciate that. It was very cursory on the front end. I like having the room to get into actual individual topics. You know. The crime thing is going to be one where the hardest part to pull the naysayers out of the naysayership, you go 3 weeks on a homicide, and then shit's going to leave the rails for 1 weekend, and everybody's going to act like we're back to square one. Mm-hmm. That to me is like, how do you get those people to say acknowledge the 3 weeks?
Yeah, there's no overnight solution.
Right.
But the most urgent thing you can do is to get more police officers in the force.
The Paige Rice initiative, capitalizing on that is going to be huge too. The Clay Young,
Oh yeah, sorry.
yeah, and the
cameras you're talking about?
yeah. Well, it started with cameras. It's moving on to other things now. I think lighting probably needs to be next, but that's just me. But like having buy-in from the business community, because we went so many decades of that's not my job. I pay my taxes. Why aren't the police doing it? We went so many years of like people clocking out because it wasn't their responsibility. It's all of our responsibility. We're not talking about the United States or Louisiana. We're talking about our home. It's like this is government should be treated differently on different levels. City government has got to be a lot more hands-on.
City government is fundamentally different than state or federal government.
Yeah.
No, I think that might be one of the most important lessons we need to add back in the civics class.
Well,
So people understand that the expectations and the influence and the dynamics, the closer you get, the more of an impact you can have and the faster. It's hard to move things at the state level.
yes.
But the federal level, wow.
Oh, and I
Really?
we talk to Garret Graves every Wednesday, and that was one of the things. Today was the last conversation we're going to have with him as a congressman, a former congressman. But that was one of his biggest frustrations is that the lack of speed in Washington D.C. It's like it is frustrating.
I was in D.C. I actually met my wife in Washington. You know, I lived in the late 90s, early 2000s. So it's a whole different game there than it is here. Well, man, thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. All right, where's your kid going to school?
We don't know yet. We're in Pennsylvania, Grove City. He wants to go to Grove City or Hillsdale.
Okay. Wow. All right.
So we'll see.
My oldest is packing up and moving out too. So
Going where?
Hattiesburg, USM, Southern Miss. Whereas people in Mississippi just call it Southern. I'm like, I can't do that. I live in Baton Rouge, where Southern University is. But yeah, she's going to Southern Miss, and it was mutual that she was getting out of town. It's like, you're not staying here. You got to go somewhere and carve your own
I'd
path.
be fine if you stayed in LSU. I'd love for him to be close to home.
Well, yeah. If because it's my daughter, and safety is the problem that it is right now. I can't not think of Valley Rice or Madison Brooks. I cannot think of before Madison Brooks was left for dead in the street. She was hunted in that parking lot. There was somebody cruising looking for somebody between us not to say no. And I mean, that's tough. Yeah. But I also want her far enough away from home where like she can come home, or close enough to home where
Yeah, I would be fine with that too.
Yeah, it's 2.5 hours. It's the same distance as Natchitoches. So, but yeah, it's you go away from college,
Come back. Yeah.
but then it's on us. Now it's on us here in Baton Rouge to give her a reason to.
Well, I left and came back.
Okay.
See, not for college, but I left after college.
Yeah. Yeah.
D.C., Colorado.
But like, I'm not originally from Baton Rouge. I'm from Covington. It's only an hour away, but like going to LSU was going away to college because everybody was going to Southeastern or UNO, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm that much further away, but it meant not commuting. You know, it meant not living at home. So that was technically going away from me. So. You be at Rotary today?
I'm not 100% sure. Coach will definitely be there.
I do a 2-minute newscast at the Rotary meetings, so I will
From
be
there?
Yeah, I'll be like on the.
Oh, I must have missed you last time I was there.
When were you there?
Probably a year or so.
Oh, it started in July with the new president. When the new president comes on board, when Greg came on board as president, he was like, Rotary used to do this way back in the day, and I want to bring it back. So I've been doing it for about 5 months now.
Awesome.
It's fun.
I'll try to see you there.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Charlie. 8:40. It's one of those. They'll give us a timeout. Also, get the correct pronunciation of this guy's last name. I got a text from Garrett's chief of staff. Man, that was sad. First time I've really had a chance to reflect. We've actually been redlining all the way until Sunday night. Gut punch. 837 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Time for us to get a look at your weather. Give me one quick second. I'm refreshing here. So stand by. I apologize. In real time. I know I'm doing this in real time. We are finally back up above freezing, and I don't think we're going to get back below freezing except for a few hours in the overnight hours tonight. When I say we're above freezing, we're 33 degrees. Okay, today we're going to get up to 49, overnight low down to 30. But when you look at what hours are going to be back below freezing, if you're wondering if you need to run the tap again tonight, it's like 1 a.m. until about 6 a.m. tomorrow. 7. Tomorrow, we'll top out at 49. Also tomorrow, late tomorrow into Friday, 100% chance of rain. So that rain will carry over into Friday as well. Friday's high just 45. Saturday, we're up to 51. Sunday, we'll be up to 61. Monday, it'll be at 60 as well. And that's where we're going to be through most of next week as I scroll ahead and look a little bit forward. Right now, it is cloudy outside. It's 33 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. .838 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Thanks again to Charlie Davis for stopping by. Sid Edwards is Chief Administrative Officer. I'm looking forward to this because we're going to have a number of conversations with the incoming administration. And one of the things that Charlie mentioned right there was the want for everyone to get on board. Everyone who's getting dialed in, everyone who's saying, I want to help, I want to take advantage of all this momentum and hope moving forward. And I want to talk to everybody who wants to do that. Whoever's in, let's get them on here because everybody's going to have their angle. Everybody's going to have their niche. Everybody's going to have their level of expertise. And with that, I don't want to waste an ounce of it. So thanks again to Charlie for hopping on board. The first of many, many conversations. Right now, though, we got to pivot and we got to head down to New Orleans. There's a new series coming up on A&E called Homicide Squad New Orleans. Joining us now from that series is Sergeant Rob Berrere. He's a homicide detective in New Orleans. Sergeant Berrere, good morning. Welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. We'll obviously talk about Homicide Squad a good bit in this segment, as that's what is what's coming to A&E. But I would be remiss if I didn't start with the recent events down in New Orleans and just get some of your takeaway from NOPD's. I mean, you're not a spokesman for NOPD, but your perspective as an NOPD officer, as an NOPD detective, the attack of New Year's morning. Just walk us through what y'all have been going through.
We're still recovering from that. Obviously, that was the worst scene I've ever been on, probably, in 20 years on this job. We all got called in around 4:30 in the morning to go assist on that scene. Ultimately, the FBI took the investigation over, but we were out there all day kind of assisting as needed. But our community is still, reeling from that. We've had, vigils and memorials and all these things take place after the New Year's Day, attack. And the community is like obviously grieving. We had a lot of local residents impacted. We've had international. We had one gentleman from England lost his life here in that attack. So again, locally, very, very tragic, as well as internationally. So I'll never forget that day. Obviously, the world won't forget that day. And just being in the middle of it, it was kind of surreal.
We're talking with Sergeant Rob Berrere from NOPD. He is a homicide detective and part of the new A&E series, Homicide Squad New Orleans. And Sergeant Berrere, with so much work that's been put in over the last year to 6 months worth of getting, efforting everything towards the Super Bowl and actually seeing a lot of improvement on the streets of New Orleans. Y'all been doing some, really good work down there. Does it feel like this level of gut punch undoes any of that, or is there the acceptance that this random act of terror could have happened anywhere?
I do feel this could have happened anywhere. Why he targeted New Orleans, it may come out, it may not, I don't know, but it definitely does not, in my opinion, overshadow the work that we've done as a city, as a police department. Our violent crime rate has plummeted in the past 2 years. Our homicides have gone down. Our homicide solve rate has gone up. The detectives that I work with every day are some of the best I've worked with in my entire career. And being with them day in and day out, watching them catch these cases, work these cases, and solve these cases, I'm still impressed by the work they do. And now I get to kind of do it from a supervisory standpoint, and I still get to dabble in the investigations, but I'm proud to work with these guys, and I'm proud to be a member of the NOPD. And again, this event, it obviously changed the city. It changed the way we're going to do things in the future, most likely, policy and all this other things I don't really want to comment on, but definitely will eventually make us more strong and resilient. We've gone through, obviously, Katrina years ago and different events, but this city is very unique. We're very resilient as a city and a community, and we'll eventually recover from this. But I don't want to take away from all the work we've done as a department. We're having a very stellar time right now, and again, I'm proud to be a part of this department.
Brought up in Metairie, what attracted you to the city versus JP?
So my dad and my grandfather were both NOPD officers, and I had no desire to be a cop initially. I went to school to be a teacher. I kind of did that for a little while, and then I kind of like got into it. I saw it like, let me try this, and I applied back in, and then again, like working in the big city, right, versus like the suburb kind of appealed to me just from the crazy stuff you'll see working in the city. So I opted to go with New Orleans over JP. I still think JP is a fabulous department as well. I have a lot of friends that work for JP and colleagues, but again, the allure of working in the city and it's just a different feel to it. And working in homicide in the city, I mean, we have so many more homicides than any other parish in Louisiana. I mean, Baton Rouge, obviously, you guys are, have
hand
your issues
raised,
too with violent crime. But I mean, New Orleans, in the 90s, we were working 400 murders a year plus. So the experience level that we get working in the city, it's unprecedented. We handle like so many more cases than all of our, fellow officers and surrounding parishes. So that kind of drew me in.
We're talking with Sergeant Rob Berrere. Okay, well, that obviously walks us right up to the new A&E series, Homicide Squad New Orleans. Tell us about it. What can we expect from it?
You're going to get to see a lot of very unique. All of our detectives are like passionate, dedicated. They're all very unique. They all have their skill sets, their strengths, their weaknesses, and just they work together. It's like, I don't know if you watch 80s cartoons, like they kind of like almost like Voltron, like they're these independent lions that kind of come together on a crime scene. They just know exactly how to, conquer a crime scene from evidence collection to looking for video, witnesses, examining phone, all things that encompass an investigation. You'll get to see them work as a team. Like, you'll have a case detective, but they rely heavily on their squad mates and their fellow detectives to solve a case. And I think seeing that unfold from an outsider, with no idea of how investigations work, it gives you an inside view of the work we do and the life that they lead, and like the intense just workload that goes into this to solve a case. It just takes so much. And I think it's really cool to be able to get an inside glimpse of that from an outside perspective.
And New Orleans provides a unique backdrop as well. You have the history of the French Quarter, the bustle of the CBD, and then, all the way out to heading out to the east, where you would have, more swampland. You have everything from, maybe someone getting shot along the interstate, which happened a good number of times over the last couple of years, to, the homicides that would happen, say, in Treme or the Lower Nine or whatever. Everything is a unique case. Everything brings a different set of challenges for a homicide detective. How do you incorporate all of that, not just into your work, but into the show?
Again, yeah, we have, I've worked homicides, like you said, all the way from the very depths of New Orleans East to these very isolated, kind of almost I hate to call them dump sites, but the middle of nowhere, all the way into the French Quarter, into the most high-profile, visible area in the city. And again, we very objectively, we look at each case, we follow the evidence, we build a case, whether it's, identifying witnesses, looking for surveillance footage. Some of the more long-term cases, we're looking at cell phone records, social media records, and all that stuff kind of builds to identify a potential suspect and then bring them in, and then an interrogation will ensue. So being a viewer of this, you'll get to see all these cases, how even the most similar case on paper is very dissimilar, because they're all work kind of differently. You have to look at each case independently and just follow the evidence and follow your leads and hope you have enough to get a resolution to build a strong enough case to present to, the DA's office, and then to go to trial and get a conviction and put this person who took someone's life away forever. Because again, closure is no one ever gets closure. I've done this for a while. Families, they're very happy that we identify the person who does this, but they're lost. They've lost someone so close to them, brothers, sisters, mothers, whatever, and they'll never get that person back. And you definitely see the impact it causes. It changes their life. So again, as the viewing public will get to see us even again, work these cases. You'll see the impact on the victims. You'll see how each case kind of plays out differently. And I think it's amazing. I've watched some of the raw cuts, and it's a very well done show.
Talk to me about some of your coworkers, your colleagues, those who are on the scene with you, because as unique of a backdrop as New Orleans is, the makeup of NOPD is equally as unique. Yeah,
we're a very diverse department. We have, in homicide alone, some of the most unique, I guess, characters. I hate to call them characters, but you have super intellectual kind of guys. You have guys who are really, really good at just talking to people and building these relationships with people. People who are very analytical. They examine records well. But at the core of it, you have 16 plus detectives who all have a unique personality. You look at some of these historic police shows like NYPD Blue or something, and all the cops kind of seem the same, kind of these gruff, caricatures of what a policeman should be. But here, we have a very few of those. Every officer, every detective has a unique personality, and they bring something different to the team, something different to the table. And you'll get to see some of the banter, and some of you'll get to see part of that as well in the show, because it's not all what do we have on this scene? It's it's part of it, but you'll see the conversations in the car and the little things that make us human. And I think it's really cool to get to witness that from behind behind the camera. I think it's really cool.
Homicide Squad New Orleans is actually already premiered over on A&E. You can catch a new episode every Thursday night at 8 locally, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. He is Sergeant Rob Berrere, New Orleans homicide detective. I appreciate a couple minutes this morning. Of course, our continued prayers over here in Baton Rouge are going to stay with y'all down in the Big Easy as y'all continue to fight through this.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you. It is 8:50. Here comes your money now. Bro, I pulled up that dude's Facebook, and, like, I got family members that are friends with this dude. Like,
That's funny.
yeah, I got
They know what's up.
3 family members that are friends with him. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and add him. And I wanted to tell him, like, he's talking about the gruff, the stereotypical.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, you don't look like Danny Reagan.
I'll have to look him up. I'll have to look him up.
Whatever it is, yeah. All right.
Okay.
Oh. One more segment. What up? Bro. The official, here, come see the temperature. Bro. Here's my weather app. It's, sorry if you couldn't see it on Facebook. It just is, it's instead of having a number, it's this outline of a nutsack, and it says balls. It's cold as balls. Mm. I know this chick. Ouch. Pew. Booty booty boop. Booty booty boop. Mondays. Oh, 856 Talk 1073 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hey, before we get out of here, got to remind you about the folks over at Vex European. That's Vex with a V, like V as in Vinny. VexEuropean.com is the website. You'll find them over in the backside of Industriplex. If you've made the investment into a European vehicle, you know you have a bit of a standard for the performance you want out of that vehicle and the longevity for which you would like to keep it. That's why Vex European is here, and that's why they're here for you. Well, they're here for me as well. I use them. I'm a regular customer over at Vex European because I have a 17-year-old car. Takes a little bit of TLC to get that thing or to keep that thing in tip-top shape, and that's what Vex does. Visit VexEuropean.com. Hit the little drop-down tab on the where it says vehicles. If you see your vehicle make on there, they've got a master-level technician. I mean, we're talking expert-level technician ready to help you out with your vehicle. It starts at VexEuropean.com. Oh, also hit that little tab for the specials to see if you can save a couple dollars along the way. All right, different kind of take on the outside in today. We're going to focus on one story in particular. Tell you what, John, go ahead and hit it. It's time for the outside in. We're going to recap a story that was in with our news partners from Louisiana Radio Network. You heard at the bottom of the hour. The cold temperatures ripping through Louisiana, ripping through across the entire country. But as they came through Louisiana, we see this happen from time to time. When it gets cold, people they seek relief from whatever warmth they can get. Well, we did have a couple of fires statewide. 4 people, including children, were discovered when Winsboro firefighters responded to a house fire just after 4 a.m. Yesterday morning. Less than an hour later, firefighters in Abbeville discovered a victim in a house fire there. Then a couple hours later, about 7 a.m., a victim was found by Shreveport firefighters. All 3 of these, we had 3 deadly fires throughout the state yesterday. State Fire Marshal's Office, Ashley Rodriguez, says while the causes of those 3 fires are under investigation, prior history has shown that space heaters are a major culprit. Got cuts 13, 14, and 15 here.
Like blank. Oftentimes individuals will put them too close to things that can catch fire easily, like blankets and furniture. In addition, individuals will fall asleep or even leave their home with those space heaters still on.
The reminders are always out there, right? You don't want to be too close to the space heater, but that's the thing. It's a space heater. You get too far away, you lose the effectiveness of it. And if you fall asleep, or if you turn it off before you fall asleep, it's going to get cold in the overnight hours. You still have to respect the potential danger that's there. I mean, not trying to victim blame, to be sure, but we hear these stories far too often. By the way, Rodrigue also says that people using their stoves to heat their homes is also a fire hazard as well, and also for carbon monoxide poisoning. All right. That's it. We're out of here. See you tomorrow. All right, Facebook. We got to roll. We'll see y'all.